Welcome, ladies, and I am so happy to be here. I have a motto and a slogan of my own, and it's who's protecting your IP is what my slogan is. So I wanted to be able to share with you ladies about the significance and the importance of doing that, of actually protecting your brand and what it is that you're creating for yourself. So Zeahlot and I have had the opportunity to have a conversation, and she asked me, she said, when do you think is the best time for people to protect themselves? And I say that the best time is as soon as you know that you're ready to get yourself out there and you're ready to start branding and letting people know who you are. What makes sense is that you have the protection in place before you launch. Your protecting your IP should be a part of your pre-development when you want to go in business, right? That's a part of your business plan. You know how you come up with your business plan and your financials and how you want to do that. Protecting your intellectual property should be a part of that process. It can help you in learning and understanding exactly what it is that how you want to present yourself to the world, and what will be the best way in enabling you to be able to do that. And so, what is IP? So, it's intellectual property. Your intellectual property is pretty much anything that you have created to identify you, yourself, and your brand. So that can go from copywriting. So I see a lot of you are licensed clinicians and have your different licenses and things like that. And so a lot of times you create processes. Well, you can copyright processes. You can be able to protect those. I help you understand what type of protection that you can get within IP. And so it typically consists of a copyright, a trademark. If you are developing things and creating new things that are tangible, you can get a patent. And also how to license the things that you've created and that you've already protected. What the protection means is that it means that the world is being put on notice that this belongs to you and your brand, and that they don't have access to it. So anything that is protected either by copyright or by a trademark, and it's within their database, is you being put on notice that that individual owns it. And infringement is any way that you use their particular thing. So say, for instance, if like Zeahlot, that Zeahlot is a brand that she's creating for herself, and someone else says, oh, Zeahlot, that's really cool, I'm gonna say Zealot's Cafe, right? So then it's like, okay, Zeahlot Cafe, but you know that Zeahlot owns Zeahlot. So adding cafe isn't enough to say that you're not infringing on her mark of Zeahlot. So that's kind of what an infringement is that when you're using someone else's brand. Let's see here. It looks like there's quite a few questions in here. So
we're in it. We are committed.
Yeah, I see. Okay. So your return on investment with a trademark. So your return on investment that you get is that you get that protection. You know that your brand is out there. And it also lets people know how serious you are about what it is that you're creating, right? If people see that you're putting the time and the effort into protecting what it is that you're creating, then they know that you're serious about it. And this is federal protection. So it's throughout the US that you would have that protection. So that's why it's very important. And the only way that you can show that your IP is on notice is when you actually file the federal protection. All right. And so we got another question. So how do brand protections work when using applications and software to create things? Let's see here, like say for instance in Canva, it's a template based. That's what I say it's a template based because I know Canva has a ton of logos that you can create. However, you can also go into Canva and you can pull just some of the information, but then you bring your creative mindset in and start to create off of the base. Once you've created something and changed it enough, I would say at least 50 to 75% from its original, then you can claim that it's original to you. So another thing, so with names, and names are kind of hard unless you have a unique name like Zeahlot. I have never met a person named Zeahlot. So that's a unique name. When you have a more common name, unless you can show that your name is your brand and is not already trademarked by someone else, that's the only way that you would be able to get it trademarked. For instance, I did trademark an individual's stage name who was a singer. And so I was able to help her get her name trademarked, but also understand that there are different processes with that, because if it's not a legal name, then you have to be able to explain that it's not a legal name, however, why you're using it and why you need to have the protection. So
What would you say are two questions that we should be asking ourselves that can lead us more to the light in protecting ourselves overall in this space?
I know as women, a lot of the things that we create start off as a side hustle, right? This is just a side hustle that I'm just doing. It's not going to be anything big. I'm going to make a couple bucks. And so the first question that you should ask yourself is, if this idea is good enough for me to put into market to present to other people, is this good enough for me to protect? And I will say, yes, it is. So stop thinking of your little side hustle as just a little side hustle that I'm just making a little bit of money off of, because those are the side things that end up blowing up, right? And by the time it gets to the space where it's blown up, you're learning that now I need to start protecting myself when you could have already had that protection in place. The second thing that I believe is that the first question that you want to ask is, do I want to pay on the front end or the back end? So I think that that's another question that you want to ask yourself. And I will tell you this, if you pay on the back end, you're always going to be paying at least twice as much as you would have paid on the front end.
Is there also a good way to look up to make sure that you are not infringing on somebody else's thing? Because Unity Behavioral Health, they look like they have a lot more funding than I do. So I wouldn't be surprised if they had something.
If they have branded it already. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put it in the chat. This is where you go to. And just so you know, if anything is in the USPTO database, it's putting you on notice. So it doesn't matter if you if you like, oh, I had no idea that somebody else was using it, and they don't care, because if it's in their database, then you're on notice. So you'll go to www.uspto.gov. You can do trademarks, which is at the top, and then there's a search option, and that search option will come up, and you type in whatever it is that you want.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, ladies. So just due to time, we have one last question. Anne-Marie asked, Ándrea, what happens if you are limited to a county specifically? How do you handle social media posts that go global or just outside of that county or that area specifically?
And see, that's where the problem lies, right? Because now you have to rebrand, because now you've been restricted. And so that's why it's so important for you to go ahead and get the protection at the onset so that you won't be limited. Because every time you go out, as soon as you're put on notice one time that you're infringing, any additional infringement is intentional, and more money you can be came off after for a lot more money, because now you're intentionally infringing on that individual, and they've already let you know that you're infringing on them. And so that's why it's important to get the protection first, because the last thing you want to do is be limited, because when you're limited, that's what you are, you're limited. And now you're forced to have to rebrand.